Guys, Francis here, Magic Mist 330 vapes, and I am going to go ahead and do a quick little nickel build in this big dripper, actually. Like I was saying in some of my other videos, excuse me, what I was saying in some of my other videos is that this particular Addy was something that I had like put away for a long time that I didn't really use, and then I started using nickel wire in my temp control Addies, and well, just all my different Addies. My old ones are kind of coming back into play now. Genesis style atomizers are coming back in style. I got a Magister coming here shortly, so I'm going to do a build and a review on that. At the moment, though, I am going to do a build in this big dripper. It's a little tricky because the posts are recessed into the deck. Whoa, wow, that's not where the lens is. So it's a little tricky to get it down in there, but I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't make that happen. I'm going to use 28 gauge nickel wire. And if I can find the end somewhere here, there it is. I'm gonna try and get about, I don't know, 15 wraps in there or so. And that should bring me in somewhere around 0.15. I'm hoping. So right around this 2mm screwdriver, I'm just gonna kind of haphazard, like just kind of crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 15 wraps. And then I'm just going to kind of push them down and pull this lead here just to get nice and tight. And it's going to kind of spring back exactly the way it should be when you do nickel. It's going to be nice and spaced. I don't know how well you can see that. But yeah, you can see it's like it's spaced really well. Which is what we're looking for. We don't want to do contact coils. Yes, it's possible, but with contact coils and nickel, it's all or nothing, man. They all have to be touching each other. You can't have some touching and some not. I find it easier just to do it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in here. Whoa. And usually I would do this while it's on the screwdriver, but because of the nature of this deck, that may be a little tricky to do. So I am just going to very gently kind of get this thing in here, ever so gently. Now this is an old Addy, so this center post kind of gets loose sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's tightened up. I do need to make sure that I have a very tight connection. And my one post hole is a little bit off, so I'm gonna hope that this works out okay. But if you don't have spinning posts or like post holes that end up kind of sideways, this will definitely work out a lot better. I still think I'm gonna be able to get this to work. I just gonna have to make sure that my leads are not touching anything they shouldn't be. If I can get them in there. There we go. One is in. My positive's in, and now my negative is in. And then usually with this one, I have to kind of grab these leads and kind of bend them up so that they don't stop when I'm pushing the coil in there. Because they're going to want to go right into the wall of the deck there. So I think I've got a pretty good bite on these. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tighten them down, and I'm not going to go like crazy tight on these. I am going to try and reorient this a little bit here. What I'll probably do is I will get this screwdriver in here like this. You see that? And then I will I'll kind of tilt the coil down into the deck. We want to tighten these up, but we don't want to go too tight because we don't want to snap the wire. Kind of just until there's just a nice resistance happening, and I think I've got a pretty good bite on this one without snapping it. You want to wiggle those leads around when you tighten down your screws so that you can see whether or not your coil is moving if you do so. And if your coil moves around, then it's not tight enough. You do not have, excuse me, you do not have a tight enough connection if your leads wiggle the coil around with the screws tightened. So I think I've got a pretty decent connection here. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then sometimes I'll just kind of tap on it. Is it, you know, how loose is it? It feels pretty good. So I don't, excuse me, I don't necessarily need to have this all the way down inside the deck. That's probably going to work just fine. As long as I've got a tight connection, as long as I've got airflow somewhere very close to that coil, I'll be okay. In this scenario, there is no single coil option with the way the airflow is set up, but I'm okay with that because nickel needs some airflow. So, and this is a tight airflow in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and let those both be open. I mean, I don't have a choice in this particular atomizer, but I'm putting some cotton in there. I'm going to make sure that it's relatively tight, but I don't want it too tight because if it doesn't wick enough, then I won't get a good vapor production. Now, with the way the Big Dripper works, there is a tank section. I'm going to show you here in just a second when I get this juiced up. I will show you how that works. Because those of you that have one of these laying around out there, you may want to use it. And if you don't, you can pick them up really cheap now because they're just not as popular as they once were, because people have moved on from these types of atomizers. They used to call these auto drippers. It was one of the descriptions. Another way that people described them was RTDA, rebuildable tank dripping atomizer. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some juice on here. And the way I have it wicked right now is kind of crazy, but that's because inside this is the cap. And there's a tank in this top section right here. There's a little seam right here, and then up to here, this is a tank right here. And there's a plunger system. Okay. There's a spring. If you can see that. There's a spring on there. And then there's a tank in here with a stem in the center like any other tank. But instead of there being a chimney with a coil build inside there, there is a hole. Should have brought some more paper towels over here. But there is a hole inside there. See if I can tilt it to where you can see it. Yep, there it is. And that hole, when you push down this drip tip, plunges the juice onto the coils. So it's actually pretty nice for a temp control setup because you get lots of airflow for your little nickel coil here. And then you just give it a couple of plunges, but you don't have to worry about the dry hits, which that was the biggest problem with this atomizer when it originally came out was you never knew when you were going to get a dry hit because you couldn't see what was going on. So, all right, so let's go ahead and fire this. Make sure, I'm using the Snow Wolf at the moment for this. I usually will take things off of the Snow Wolf and press the button to make it say check atomizer so that then it kind of, you know, when I put something new on, it'll go, oh, new coil. And it's not asking me that right now, but it's reading 0.16. So I pretty much hit what I was looking for, you know, pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this. I'm set to 40 watts, 514 degrees. That's just kind of a par setting at the moment. So yeah, it's firing. It's a little bit dry already because I didn't put a whole lot of juice on there. Let's try it again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Put the cap on. Let's go ahead and give it a whirl. Pretty good. I can see the flavor is already getting a little bit muted because I've dried it out. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a few presses. Right now I'm dripping juice from this tank onto those coils down there. Let's take a look. Yeah, and it looks to be pretty saturated. The hole orientation That's why I have cotton on both sides. So that no matter where that juice falls, it'll wick. It's not too bad. Again, I'm drying it out quickly because the cotton is brand new and it hasn't not been well saturated yet. Not too bad. Yeah, and I can see that it just needs a little bit more juice on there, and let's just really saturate it and see how it does. Make sure that my airflow is lined up under the coil. It's a pretty decent little vape. I'm not going for crazy big clouds here. I'm not going for Atlantis V2 nickel coil. But the vapor production is good. The flavor is particularly good in this Addy because of the dome shape on the inside of that cap. But this, I'm kind of like at like a DNA 40 kind of setting right now, at the 40 watts with the 514 degrees. I would feel comfortable vaping around there on a DNA 40 and probably getting a few hours out of a battery, like 4 or 5 hours. I'm going to go ahead and turn the watts up now, and let's see what happens. Let's go up to like 60 watts. Yeah, considerable difference there. I guess it's getting dry again. It's only giving me about, so I'll just go ahead and drip a little bit more on there. Seems to be doing pretty good. Maybe I'll turn the temperature up a little bit now. The Snow Wolf goes up to 662 degrees. I'm going to go up to about, let's say it was an IPV, and it goes to 572 degrees. Yeah, it's definitely cooking now. Yeah, seems to be working pretty well. I could probably stand a wick a little bit better than this. Maybe I'll just kind of knock this coil down a little bit. And it's doing some limiting, and that could be, there's a number of things that could be the reason for that occurring. And my guess is it's this subpar center post connection that I have. But it's an enjoyable vape. If I had one that was brand new and the center post was not weird on me, I'm sure that it would be limiting the temperature much less. But just wanted to do a quick little nickel build on a lost and forgotten Addy that I had. And, if I was putting this on a DNA 40, I'd be okay with this. It's not too bad. Get out your old Addies if you're into temp control. Get out those ones with the little post holes and the reduced chambers and things like that, and see what you can come up with. You'd be surprised. You can create some nice vaping scenarios. But anyways, I guess that's it for today, or for this build anyways, and thanks for watching, and we'll check you later.